Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday morning to you. It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, and welcome to another edition of NFL Sunday Wake Up with me. It is week 16 in the National Football League. Things got kicked off on Thursday and followed up by some action yesterday. Two games with the Chiefs and the Texans, and Steelers and the Ravens. And then we also had some college football mixed in too. So what a great day for sports. So what a wonderful day for football. But as usual here on NFL Sunday Wake, I'm going to be getting you guys ready for all of the matchups for today. But in between that, we're going to be talking about some news and some highlights from what's already taken place from around the league. So you guys are in the right place. So pull up, get your cup of coffee, orange juice, whatever you're sipping on this morning. Sit back and relax and enjoy the show. This is Clutch Sports Talk, NFL Sunday Wake Up with me, Ryan Flowers. Let's go. Good morning once again. Happy holidays to you all. We are basically at the 2-minute warning here with the holidays or Christmas rapidly approaching. If you need to go get your shopping done, man, take care of that, or whatever you're doing. Make sure you do that safely and have a good time. It is the time of year where, things seem a little bit, depending on your situation, obviously a little bit brighter, right? So hopefully everything is going okay with you. But before we get moving on with the show, make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to the Grid YouTube network channel. You see the information down there below, as well as my Clutch Sports Talk podcast YouTube channel as well. Trying to hit that mark. And if you're watching live right now, make sure you drop a comment. We already got one comment in already. My boy, Mr. Faithful, Patrick Brown says, "Good morning, happy NFL Sunday wake up, watching my favorite NFL show on this frigid morning." So appreciate for him for stopping by. And check him out too. He's also got some great articles on the Grid Network website. But you gotta head over to our page, man, and check us out. So pumping out some really good material there. So all right, you know what? Before I get into the NFL stuff, I do want to talk about the college football playoff just a little bit. It's been on my mind, and it started Friday night with Indiana and Notre Dame. Like, listen, I've heard arguments for both sides, and I mean, listen, it wasn't great football, honestly. I think the hype exceeded the actual games on the field. Like, we're like, oh my God, it's a college playoff. It's 12 teams. Indiana got boat raced. Then you got SMU quarterback. I don't even know who would. It's like he hit the transfer portal during the game. Like he was giving the ball to Penn State literally almost every snap or every time he dropped back. And then, Clemson actually was probably out of all the teams that lost, kind of made it a game. Tennessee, golly, they got stomped. And a lot of people are going to say, well, even myself, I was texting my cousin about this, and I was like, well, maybe Alabama should have made it, or South Carolina, or even Miami, right? I don't know, man. I think, when I look back at it and reflect on the weekend of college football, I guess I didn't expect those teams to get blown out by so much. I thought maybe it might have been a better game. Obviously, I think having the home field advantage for some of these colleges, played a part in these games, especially those teams that are used to playing in warmer weathers. They had to travel to cold environments per se. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. But do I think they got the teams mostly right? Yeah, there might be an underlying world where you think that maybe Alabama would have posed a better threat to maybe a Notre Dame or even a Penn State or even South Carolina, right? So it's not going to be perfect. I realize that. I'm hoping though that the next week of playoff games will be a lot more competitive, because what we saw Friday and Saturday, it was not competitive college football. It was I was really hoping that Tennessee Ohio State game was going to really kind of salvage the weekend, and it didn't. And I know we have a Tennessee fan, and our boy Bryson Carver from the Carving Up podcast. I don't believe he's watching today, but that quarterback, man, he's pretty average at best, I would say. Now it's not all on him, right? But when you look at it, Tennessee really didn't belong out there either. When you think of Tennessee, you're like, oh, okay, they should have some offense, but they couldn't get anything going, man. Literally. And kind of what peeved me off about Tennessee too is that before the game, they're running off with their shirts off and they're trying to flex. And then you go down 21-0 in the first quarter. And then right before the half, you're down 21-3. Quarterback scores a touchdown. He does the whole little like LeBron push down, whatever that celebration he does. And I'm thinking, you're down 21-10 at this point, and you got that touchdown late at the end of the half. Like, relax, bro. Like chill. So I guess that's this generation of athletes. I can't understand it. But either way, I was a little disappointed with the weekend's college football games. Hopefully it'll get better. We have some really good matchups down the line here. Man, I pray that Boise State does something, because if not, then it's gonna be like, well, damn, man. Like, what's the point of even having the 12-team playoff? Let's just go back to the 4-team. Honestly, and let's just get to some of these teams, or maybe don't even have a 12, just go back to it, go to an 8, right? But some of these teams did not belong on there, including Indiana. And I don't know if strength of schedule was even a factor. I haven't really followed it that much, but like Indiana, they didn't play anybody. And then the one team that they played all year, Ohio State, they got the crap beat out of them. And then they go into Notre Dame. And don't get me wrong, Notre Dame is a good program, but come on, man. Like, they made Notre Dame look like Joe Montana and Jim Brown was there. Not Jim Brown. Yeah, is it Jim Brown? Well, not Jim Brown. What was his name? Tim Brown. Sorry. Like it, I don't know. And then again, like SMU, great story too, but who they play? You know what I mean? Clemson. I don't know. I maybe 12 teams is just too much. I don't know. I'm just kind of spewing here because I was looking forward to better play at the end of the day, and we didn't get it. So it is what it is. So hopefully that Ohio State Oregon in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day will be a matchup of immense proportions, kind of what we saw earlier this year when the Buckeyes went to Eugene. Hopefully it'll be a good rematch. So we'll have to wait and see. The Texas Clemson might be decent. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, so that's my rant on college football. I know it's an NFL show, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that for whoever was listening and whoever cares. So, all right, let's talk about what happened yesterday. Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Houston Texans. Prayers to Tank Dell. It seems like he's suffered almost a career-ending injury, a dislocated knee, and I believe he ruptured one of the ligaments there in that knee. So prayers to him. And I'll touch base on how that affected the Texans, I believe. But what I want to talk about is who is the most valuable Chief, the MVC. Patrick Mahomes, obviously most people say, oh, he's the guy, right? He's the 3-time Super Bowl winner, MVP award getter. He's the face of that franchise, of course. But this year, the last couple of years, he's kind of taken a backseat a little bit. But I think what happened this Saturday, we saw a little bit out of Xavier Worthy. Now, when he was drafted out of Texas, people were like, oh my God, the guy is a cheat code. He's a 98, 99 speed in Madden. Just the speed, just unadulterated, unfiltered speed. And we got a dose of him a little bit in that first game against the Ravens earlier in the year to open up the season. But yesterday, man, he really, really balled out. 7 receptions, 65 yards, and a touchdown, and 10 yards rushing. So they use him in multiple facets. He might be the key. He might be the key for the Chiefs moving forward, honestly, if he can kind of stay healthy. I know he got nicked up a little bit yesterday, but I think he might be the key. Although Patrick Mahomes has been effective, even with that high ankle sprain, I think Xavier Worthy might be the guy. Now, low-key, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, did get back in the lineup yesterday after coming off of that injury earlier that he sustained in preseason. But I would say that, he even kind of showed up and showed out. I believe he had like 4 catches for like 45 yards and some crucial catches late in that game to kind of help seal the deal for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, right now, I think overall, Xavier Worthy might be the most valuable player that they have, because he's a guy that you have to be on a defense, you have to account for it. Just the sheer speed, his explosive playability. That's something that they haven't had. They added DeAndre Hopkins earlier in the year, via the trade. Listen, and it's not even a slight to DeAndre Hopkins. He's not the same guy. He's an older receiver. Not saying he's not a bad asset. Of course he is, but he is not going to make the big plays that we most people remember him making when he was a Texan, or even when he was in Arizona. I'm not gonna say he's a shell of himself, but he's not the same guy anymore. So Xavier Worthy is going to have to be that guy for the Chiefs in order to take on the rest of the AFC, and hopefully they get to that Super Bowl and face off against maybe the Lions or even the Eagles, right? So Xavier Worthy is a guy that they need to keep healthy, and they need to continue feeding him the ball in some capacity. And we'll see if he can take on the limelight, obviously, right? So this is a big stage. The what you call it? The stakes are getting bigger as we start to wind down the season. Now believe they only have like 2 games left before they get ready for the playoffs. So I think Xavier Worthy is. I'm not going to say he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver. Like per se like a CD Lamb or a Justin Jefferson, but for what they need to get done in Kansas City, I think he's going to be one of the most valuable people that's going to help carry them to possibly to a three-peat of a Super Bowl. Now, let's take a look at the Texans real quick. CJ Stroud was definitely affected by the events that took place with Tank Dell, and I get it that they're like best friends. That's his boy. I would have loved to see a little bit more composure out of the young man. I get it. It's like when your guy goes down, you gotta, you feel a certain type of way. And I feel like after that injury, because that touchdown was huge, it got them back in the game. If I'm not mistaken, or did they take the lead or tie the game, or I forgot what it was, but it was a big touchdown. And then after that, it's just kind of like they never quite got over the emotional mountain of Tank Down being carted off yesterday. And I know these guys are human beings, but as a leader, as a quarterback, he's going to have to mentally be prepared for things like that and get the team and rally the troops at the end of the day. I still think he's a fine young quarterback, still a lot to learn. The second year has been rough for him, but definitely somebody is going to have to talk to him and just kind of say, hey, man, like, the crying and all that, like, I get it. That's your boy. And I've experienced things like that. I've been deployed overseas. I've seen guys go down, right? Doesn't mean the fight stops. The fight continues. You just have to, what's the word? I can't say it off the top of it. Compartmentalize things, right? If I said that right. And there's a time to deal with that later, but you got to focus on what's in front of you at that point. Obviously, he wasn't going to die. He's with medical professions. Obviously, the worst we may have be the outcome for him. He may not play another down in the National Football League, which is unfortunate for him because he's a good guy for what it seems like, and a talented individual too. And he was having a good game, especially he got the touchdown. He was returning punts and kickoffs rather well for the Texans this season. So, but the Texans, they're going to have to get over. And I don't know if this is going to linger. Right now, you're down Tank Dell, you're down Stephon Diggs. Nico Collins, like, okay, we got to get him going again. He's going to have to take over this team. If they're going to look to make some noise in the playoffs, he's going to have to take control. He's the quarterback. Quarterback is the de facto leader in any locker room that I've ever been in or been around, more often than not. And it should be. He's the guy. They're the highest paid guys on the team typically. And they command and control the organization, the fans, the players within. So CJ Stroud, he's going to have to, reset. He got on that plane back home to Houston last night. Get in touch with Tank Dell, pray it out, do what you got to do. But you got to focus on next week because the season is not going to stop because Tank Dell suffered a horrific injury. And I'm not trying to be cold-hearted. That's just the facts of it all, right? At the end of the day, they're paying you to play football. They're paying you to play a game, and you're gonna have to, like I said, focus in a little bit more if you're gonna have this team ready to go for next week. So we'll have to, and I believe they got a couple good teams coming in too to finish out the year. So there's an opportunity there for him to bounce back and get his team on the right path. All right, moving on here, Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who's gonna win the North? The Steelers had a perfect chance to wrap up the division. They squandered it. Some late turnovers there by Russell Wilson. But betting odds right now, it looks like the Ravens have the easier go at it, right? I believe the Steelers have games against, let me remember my notes here. I know they got Kansas City, and I believe they close out the year with the Texans, where the Ravens, I believe, have like the Browns and somebody else who they probably should be favored. Browns or Bengals, one of the two. Let's see here. Chiefs and Bengals. I take that back. Steelers also, yeah. Chiefs and Bengals. So, I guess they still have some work to do. But this division, man, is tough. I mean, because listen, the Bengals, although they haven't been playing well, like that ain't a cakewalk. That's not a cakewalk. I don't trust either team because every time the Steelers get a chance to wrap things up or do or make a real true statement, like they'll fool us one week and say, "All right, man, they put up this points. They played well," and then they'll follow up with another week, and it's like, "Well, damn, what happened? I thought you know." And then same thing with the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, MVP performance. What, 3 touchdowns last night? The week before, 5 touchdowns, and then they'll struggle with somebody, or they'll drop a game where they shouldn't drop. My bet is that I think the Ravens will win this division. I think just because of the matchups that they have ahead of them the last couple of weeks of the season, I still think the Steelers they're still inconsistent, I would say. And I do believe more in Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I believe that running game is going to help carry them too. Defense ain't that great, obviously, and it's been like that the last year and a half. It's not the same dominating defense that we once knew and grew up with, like Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs and Ed Reed. Those days are long gone. And they've had other guys like Patrick Queen was there at one point. Now he's a Steeler, but this team is definitely driven by the offense and what their capabilities are. And then you look at the Steelers, they're missing some guys. Hopefully their defense too can kind of get a little healthy. They're a little susceptible yesterday, but the turnovers, Russell Wilson, I still think that Russell Wilson gives them the best chance to win these games down the stretch, better than Justin Fields, because he can throw the ball, right? But in order for the Steelers to clinch the AFC, they're going to need they're going to have to win out, obviously, their final 2 games, and then they're going to have to hope for the Ravens to lose. So same concept for the Ravens as well, too. I believe they're both 10-5, if I'm not mistaken. So both teams are looking at each other like, hey, well, you need to lose and we need to win. You win out, you got a chance, right? And you just got to hope that one of these teams are going. And I think the Steelers are going to fall. I think they got a big game Christmas Day against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Against the Chiefs. And that's going to be a good game. That's going to be a good game. So, but again, I don't trust either team as far as outside of what they're going to do in the playoffs. To me, it's just they're both anomalies, especially the Ravens too, because we've seen them win, we've seen them be this number 1 seed team, and they fold in the playoffs. So I hope that's not the case. I'm starting to kind of get an appreciation for Lamar Jackson. Most people would have thought I'm a hater on Lamar Jackson. It's not that I'm a hater. I don't buy into hype so quickly. I try not to, at least. I mean, listen, I'm human. I'm susceptible to certain things, right? But Lamar, everyone's like, oh my God, he's the greatest guy. He's like, he's the greatest player of all time. It's like, yeah, but he ain't won nothing yet. He ain't won nothing. And it doesn't mean it's hate. It's the reality. And a lot of guys haven't won things yet. I mean, you look at guys in his own division. Joe Burrow hasn't won nothing yet, right? But he's played in a Super Bowl. He got to a Super Bowl, and he's beaten the Chiefs in Kansas City. Like he's accomplished some things. And not to say that Lamar hasn't accomplished. I mean, he's won the MVP twice. He may win it again this year if he keeps performing the way he is. Like, who knows, right? But winning the AFC North is not an accomplishment for them anymore at this point. It's like they should expect to win. Although it is a tough division, but they're usually one of the front runners for that division anyway. I don't think anyone thought the Steelers would be where they are today. I didn't. I had them third, I believe, when I picked them. I mean, so who knows what can happen? So, who's going to win the North? I think the Ravens will win it at the end of the day. I don't think the Steelers are going to be consistent enough. Although I do like the Steelers, but they're just not consistent. And I think the Ravens, they're not as consistent either, but I just like their chances, like their matchup. So let's get to some comments here real quick before I move on to my power rankings real fast. Patrick says, if it weren't for Kansas City's defense, they'd be in trouble. Coach Spags has done a massive. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that defense is good. Because they're making up for the offense's inadequacies, for sure. We got Joe Cunningham. He says, sup, bro. What's up to you, Joe? I appreciate you stopping by, man. Good job. Patrick says, as someone who's dealt with knee injuries, my heart sunk for Tank Dell, born with an abnormal meniscus and sprained LCL a few years ago. The chronic pain lingers today. Yeah, unfortunate for Tank. Patrick follows up and says, Baltimore needed a late season bye to get right. That was much needed win for sure. Yeah, big time win, because they don't have a lot of success against the Steelers, oddly enough. I forgot what the stat is. It's changed now, but I want to say in the last 10 games, let's say 10 games, right? If we have that sample size, Steelers have won 8 out of those 10 games. So the Steelers have their number for some reason. I don't know what it is, but he says Ravens are the better team. I'm not sure they can make it through the AFC though. Yeah, I think the Ravens are the better team, especially offensively. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers. I read a stat this morning. Zay Flowers is like, he's creating separation like on 67% of the dropbacks that they have, or when they call passing plays. Like, that's crazy, man. Like, so he's definitely a young star in the making there. Patrick asks, do you feel Pittsburgh's offense getting exposed 2 weeks in a row? Yeah, I believe so. Forgive me, did George Pickens play last night? I don't recall seeing him or remember. I don't know. Did he play? And if he did play, it was kind of like, damn, well, what happened to him? And if he didn't, that does alter their offense as well, too, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't remember if he was playing because I was kind of flipping back and forth between the college game and the Steelers game. So if he didn't play, that's gonna help. That's gonna hurt their offense. No, he hasn't played. Okay, I thought he hasn't played in 2 games. That's what I thought. Okay, so Joe says, I feel like Lamar can win. I think he has the makings to win a championship for sure. But you got players that sometimes they just can't get over that hump, or they have teams that they just can't. It's like their kryptonite. They just can't get past them. And I believe like Kansas City is that team for him. Like, every time they match up, Kansas City kind of gets the upper hand, right? So we'll see. Patrick says, if Burrow had an elite coaching and defense like Mahomes, he'd easily win an MVP and Super Bowl. Yeah. I mean, listen, you can say that for anybody. Like, going to the right situation is a thing. I mean, it is a thing. But I think Mahomes is a fantastic player. I mean, literally, like, he's one of those guys that if you're down late, you need a field goal, hell, even a touchdown, and you have one drive left, who are you giving the ball to? I'm probably more inclined to give it to Patrick Mahomes. He's in that arena with those, like a Tom Brady or like Michael Jordan, that caliber of player where you feel comfortable, like, oh yeah. Like I would say it. I look back at that Super Bowl last year when they were down and they needed to go tie that game up. I was like, oh, the Niners are cooked. He's either going to win this game or they're going to get that field goal and they're going to tie it. And there was no doubt in my mind. And sure enough, he did that and they ended up winning the game. Like, he's that kind of dude, like, for sure. All right. Moving on, let's take a look at my power rankings for week 16. Obviously, some games have played, so some things have transpired, obviously, of course, right? So let's look at number 1 right here. We got the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, listen, man, like, they're rolling. They're rolling. The offense is overpowering people for the most part. AJ Brown playing solid football. Him and Jalen Hurts playing solid football. Him and AJ Brown got back on the same page, and they're balling out. And if that's the case, look out. I think their team chemistry also was in question the last couple of weeks, but I don't think that's an issue anymore. Devontae Smith showed that he's also there too. He's a guy that you got to account for too, right? You don't really talk about him a lot. He knows his role, but he's definitely a guy that you have to take account for too if you're the opposing defense. And I can't talk more about their rushing game. Saquon Barkley, although last week he didn't have like a big game, but he had 65 carries. I mean, 65 yards on 19 carries. So he definitely is a guy that's just lurking there, right? We all know his big play impact. So overall, I mean, listen, the defense is playing solid, and they are a complete team. They are a complete team by any stretch of the imaginary or NFL standards. They are a complete team. So I got them at number 1. All right, Buffalo Bills. Listen, they beat the Chiefs. They beat the Lions. They're the real deal. Josh Allen is probably the front runner today, right, for the MVP. And mind you, he hasn't really been like ball. He don't have like a true number 1 guy. Like, they brought in Amari Cooper. It was cool for like a week or two, and then he kind of faded to the black. Keon Coleman they drafted, but he's just getting it done. He's just getting it done with like guys like Khalil Shakur, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook, running the football pretty well. Defensively, though, that I'm still concerned with them. Now, they did handle the run really well last week against Detroit. Is that something that they're going to be able to kind of keep up? But I mean, because they did let Detroit get back in that game late last week, so we'll have to wait and see. But definitely one of those teams that you can see they can go on the road and win, right? Especially in Detroit. They may have to go to Arrowhead though. We'll see how that plays out if they can able to kind of surpass the Chiefs for the top spot in the AFC. All right, at number 3, Detroit Lions. Listen, injuries are starting to take an effect on this team, right? I know Montgomery got the third third option, the third opinion from doctor. I guess he's cleared to play. I don't know how healthy he is. Obviously, a lot of people are not healthy towards the end of an NFL season. I get that. But when you look at the defense, they got injuries to Carlton Davis, Khalil Dorsey. So their secondary is kind of like falling apart. Even on the interior defensive line, guys like Aleem McNeil, obviously Aiden Hutchinson, maybe might be back in time if they make the Super Bowl. I don't know. And how effective will he be, right, after missing so much time? So I think injuries are really hampering this team. Can they overcome that? Can Dan Campbell rally the troops and play that next man up mentality? We'll have to wait and see. But defensively, they're getting weaker and weaker by the week. So no pun intended, but definitely they're still up there. One of the best offenses in the National Football League, but I have them at number 3. Chiefs, listen, yeah, I got them at number 4. They've dropped a little bit. I mean, they find ways to win every week. Like they find a new way to win. So I'm not. It's kind of a negative, but it could be a positive too because they're still finding ways to win. Like even though I had the Buffalo Bills as the higher seed in my power rankings, technically the Chiefs are the number 1 seed in the AFC. So go figure, right? But their schedule is a little staunch here down the stretch. They had the Texans, they took care of them. They got the Steelers, and they finished up with the Broncos. So in Denver, and Denver's going to be competing for a playoff spot, so that's going to be a competitive game. And if the Chiefs want to maintain that number 1 seed, they're going to have to play their guys too. So that's not a game where it's like, oh, we're comfortable, we're good, let's shut it down. No, like they're going to be playing, to the final minute this season, right? So, but the defense is the focus. Patrick Brown pointed that out. Like they're the all-star on this team. They're kind of the MVP. Is the defense, and if anybody, it's the coach. Steve Spagnuolo is probably the MVP, but overall, at the end of the day, when it boils down to it, I want Patrick Mahomes to lead this team, and I think he'll get it done. Patrick has mentioned a comment, says Detroit's getting banged up at the worst time. Yeah, yep, for sure. Like you're gonna have injuries, but like it seems like every week and it's late in the season, these guys are having injuries where they're gonna be out for the remainder of the season, the remainder of the year, and you can't have that, especially to your secondary, especially in your secondary when you got matchups against like Philly in the playoffs or even the Rams. They may have to see the Rams again, right? And the Rams are hot, right? Or even Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay got their number this year too. So teams that can throw the football and your secondary is hurt, that's not a good recipe for sure. Joe says he's got KC number 1, Philly 2, Buffalo 3, Lions 4, Baltimore 5. So hey, respect to that. Moving on, we got the Baltimore Ravens at number 5. They're handling adversity as best as they can. They, again, a little inconsistent at time, but when they are on, when Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry are on, they're hard to stop. They are hard to stop, especially when Derrick Henry gets it going. He got it going early in that game yesterday. I believe he had like 65 yards in the first half or something crazy like that. Like when he is going, the rest of it's like the rest of it just flows, right? And so hopefully that will be the difference for them in the postseason. If they could get him the football and not try to put it all on Lamar. Okay. That's going to be the key for them. I like Rashad Bateman. He's kind of stepped up in a big way. Him and Zay Flowers are going to have to be a very potent combination when come playoff time. Okay. For sure. But I do like the Ravens. Again, their defense is still kind of, so we'll have to wait and see. Minnesota Vikings coming in at number 6. They're kind of gaining some strength too. Their defense is setting the tone again. Especially in first half of these games. Offensively, there's still some mistakes being made by Sam Darnold, but the offense has been capitalizing on turnovers that their defense has been forcing, which is crucial. Anytime you can get extra possessions in a football game, like when you really break it down, when you look at a game, like we watch these games. Oh, you feel like these guys get hundreds and hundreds of plays, or they get all these drives. But when you really break it down as an offense, just from an offense perspective, you probably get anywhere between, I don't know, 40 to 50 plays in a game. Depending on, on average, right? Obviously, if you get, so that's why getting extra possessions means what? Extra opportunities to score. And that's what I'm saying with Minnesota is that their defense is giving you extra possessions and they're capitalizing on it. that can totally flip the outcome of a game. So, like, just think about that. Next time you watch an NFL game or even a college game, like, even or if you want to even break it down to like series, like they don't get that many opportunities to score. You may get 6-7 series in a game. So if you're going from 6 to 7, your defense is forcing turnovers, and you're getting 8 to 10, that's more of an opportunity to score more points. So that can vote well for them, for Minnesota. So right now they're riding the momentum. They still got some games here. You got Green Bay and Detroit games. So towards the end, so that's going to really be a measuring stick for them. How are they going to go into because they're going to make the playoffs for sure. Is how will they be going into will they be going on a high? I mean, they're still competing for the AFC North too, right? So I mean, excuse me, NFC North. So we'll see. And that goes with them. Green Bay staying in the NFC North. Offensively, Green Bay has been balanced. Josh Jacobs has really bring a certain physicality running style that they've kind of missed. I like Aaron Jones too, but Brandon Jacobs is a bruiser. And I think he's helped propel this offense well. Jordan Love has been playing really well too. And what I like about Jordan Love too, he's spreading the ball out efficiently. He's not just targeting one guy. Like, and if you're a Green Bay fan or a person that's playing fantasy football and you have a Green Bay Packers wide receiver, you're kind of like, well, damn, I don't know who's going to be the guy this week. And that's kind of what it is. 1 minute is Christian Love, 1 minute is Romeo Doubs, 1 minute it's another guy, right? Who knows with them, right? Or their tight end, right? So, but they're distributing the ball. Defensively, they performed well recently against Geno Smith. They beat down Seattle, really. And their defense is showing that they are a dangerous team and they can kind of be balanced too. The only hem up for me is that it boils down to Jordan Love is can he limit mistakes? And so far he's been okay. Hasn't really been put in a position to where recently where he's kind of have to like lead a sustaining drive, right? But we'll have to wait and see when the playoff comes. But sitting at 10-4 right now, they're in a prime position, but they're a solid team all the way around. I got Pittsburgh at number 8. Tough loss last week. They got guys that have been missing time, like George Pickens, right? I realized he didn't play. It was pointed out to me and played the last 2 weeks. So that does change their offense quite a bit. You get a guy like that back in there, that's going to help them. But offensively, they still struggled, even without George Pickens there. Defense, they've been exploited too. You can pass on them if they're not getting to the quarterback with TJ Watt. Then they've been exploited just a tad bit there. So we'll have to wait and see. They got some crucial games coming up. You got Christmas against the Chiefs, and then they finish up, I believe I said, with the Broncos, if I'm not mistaken. So, 2 playoff formidable teams. How will you finish? Right. So we'll have to wait and see there. Now I got Denver Broncos coming in at number 9. Listen, tough loss. And a winnable game against the Chargers in division. Bo Nix, still struggling with his accuracy. You got to protect the ball a little bit more. You got a good defense, right? You're gonna have to hone in on protect the football. He's gonna have to kind of be of a game manager type. They got some weapons. You got Cortland Sutton. They got the trio running backs there, so they got some tools there. But they might be slipping out of my top 10 here, obviously a little bit. We'll see what happens with them next week. Because the Chargers beat them obviously head to head, but we'll have to wait and see. And then I got Tampa Bay. They kind of got back into the picture there. It looks like they're going to wrap up this division. We'll see how Michael Penix does today. Atlanta, interestingly enough, they know what they're doing. You're playing the Giants today. Like, this is like a preseason game for them. So we'll have to wait and see. So, but there you have it. Those are my my power rankings. Got some comments here about Patrick says crazy thought Minnesota at Detroit for the season finale. Yeah, it should be flexed to Sunday Night Football. Whoever, yeah, for sure. Who's on this? I don't even know who's on the docket right now for that. But if it ain't them, man, unless it's another game with some significance or meaning, that should be the game. That's must see TV. The game in Detroit, I believe. So that's a good one to see. So good point there. All right, let's take a look at my previews and predictions for this week. Obviously, we got some games already that taking place, so we'll jump straight to the New York and Atlanta game. Michael Penix Jr. gets to start. The Giants are garbage. So if Michael Penix does not do, you can't lose. You can't lose this game. If you're Michael Penix, you're waking up this morning. He's like, okay, I got a favorable matchup. I got to win this game. you are the better team on paper for sure. So I got Atlanta. I believe they're 2 touchdown favorites. I don't know if they'll cover for sure, but they should win that game. All right. We got Arizona taking on Carolina, heading to Carolina. It's a little cold down there, and Arizona probably not used to that cold weather. Panthers coming off a disappointing loss against the Cowboys last week. In a game I thought, going into, I was like, well, they should win that game. Arizona is fighting for their playoff life, so I think they have more to play for. Obviously, guys on the Carolina team, they're auditioning too. But I like the Cardinals in a close game, but I like the Cardinals there. You got Detroit Lions taking on the disappointing Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams. Not all on him. Organization really hadn't. They tried to set him up. They thought they were doing the right thing by getting him more weapons, but it really ain't worked out. You had the wrong coach to begin with. That's what it boils down to. So, but I like the Lions to get back on track, even though with their injuries. But they're going to head to the midway and get the win over the Bears. All right, Tennessee Titans, who are, I believe, eliminated from playoff contention, but the Colts aren't. So I like the Colts just for that fact that they are still fighting for their playoff life. So I like the Colts in that one, in that AFC South matchup. You got the LA Rams taking on the New York Jets. Finally, Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers got it going last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. However, though, I like the Rams. They're still fighting for their playoff of life too, so I like the Rams. The Rams are like a very sneaky team at this point, so I like them. All right, Washington Commanders at home taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. These two played a couple weeks ago. Wasn't really that close. I like Philadelphia to win this game and keep rolling as they try to contend for that number 1 spot in the NFC. All right, Cleveland Browns taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Browns eliminated from the playoffs as well too. Bengals kind of in there, but they need a lot to happen. I still like the Bengals though. Might be a shootout, but I like the Bengals here in this one. Minnesota taking on the Seattle Seahawks. They got to travel to the Pacific Northwest. Don't know the status of Geno Smith off the top of my head, but he did suffer an injury last week. I do like Minnesota's chances, though, because they are still also trying to compete. Maybe try to sneak in and get that number 1 spot, but at least try to win the division there. I like Minnesota. New England Patriots taking on the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to Drake May. I didn't think he'd be a great pro, but so far he's looking pretty decent without not having a really true number 1 wide receiver. But I like the Buffalo Bills to keep rolling and try to keep pace with the Chiefs as they try to sneak up on them to try to get that number 1 spot in the AFC. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars here in Las Vegas taking on the Raiders. Mac Jones taking on, I believe it's Aiden O'Connell. I don't understand this with the Raiders. Like, why are you trying to win games? Lose so you can get that number 1 pick. Start Desmond Ridder, or there's another guy that they have in their practice squad. Elevate him, let him play, stink up the place. Who cares? You're not making the playoffs. The season's over. Start evaluating some of your young talent. Why are you putting O'Connell back in? I don't get it, but that's why the Raiders are what they are. So, but I like Jacksonville in the upset. I think it was a pick 'em, but I like Jacksonville in that game. All right, San Francisco taking on their former coach, Mike McDaniel. I believe he was like some type of assistant with under Kyle Shanahan. The Dolphins, to me, are a joke. Mike McDaniel's looking like a clown too. I like San Francisco, although their chances are making the playoffs, I believe, are pretty much cooked. But I still like their chances. I think they're the better team. They'll be able to run the football, and I think they'll win this game in the upset on the road. And as for Sunday Night Football, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Every bit of my fiber says the Buccaneers should win this game, but Dallas Cowboys, I guess they're playing a little bit better. I will give them credit. However, though, I'm still going to go to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the game will be a lot closer. But no Trayvon Diggs. He's out for the rest of the year. So that secondary will be exposed for sure. So I like the chances of Tampa Bay right there. So I'm going with the Buccaneers in that one. And then to wrap up the week, you got the Sunday night game. Might be a snoozer. You got, I think it's Spencer Rattler might be starting for the New Orleans Saints. They're going up to Lambeau Field where it's going to be cold as hell. No Alvin Kamara from what I understand too. So, who knows what's going to happen with them. So Green Bay should win this game. As soon as New Orleans gets off that plane in Green Bay, they're going to be like, damn, it's cold. So I like the Packers in that matchup there as well too. So, all right. Let's read some comments for real quick. Patrick says Denver is the Jekyll and Hyde. 1 week play to win. The next week, a lot of head scratching. Oh, for sure. They are. That's part of being a young team with a young coach, or young quarterback, right? Then he also says the other playoff implication game could be possibly Seattle at LA. Yeah, but I kind of would like to see the Vikings at Lions on a Sunday night matchup for sure. I like that as well. So, but you're right. All right. Before I get up out of here, I got my clutch picks of the week. 0-1 right now. Punk ass Denver Broncos let me down, but I got money on the Bengals, Jacksonville, and San Francisco 49ers to get the win. Hopefully I can get over 500 today, and we'll see how that goes. So there you have it. All right, man. Well, that's all the time I got. Had a late start today, but thanks for tuning in. No, 40 minutes until first kickoff for the day. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. Appreciate you guys for you in the comments as usual, Patrick Brown and everybody else that was watching and also commented too. I appreciate you guys. So I will be back Christmas Eve for NFL Sunday matchup, so you guys don't want to miss out on that. While you're wrapping up your gifts, putting your last minute touches to the holiday season, make sure you guys tune in live at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time here on YouTube, on the Good Network, as well as my Facebook channel and YouTube platform at Clutch Sports Talk Podcast. So you guys don't want to miss out. So that's all I got today. You guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I am your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk. This is NFL Sunday Wake Up. Like I always say, never settle till the work is done. I'll see you guys Tuesday. Peace.